What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today I have big news to bring to you. If you haven't already heard, which if you're a Borderlands fan, I would find very surprising, it's being reported, and it's pretty much all but confirmed, that we are about to get a new DLC for Borderlands 2, supposedly coming out this Sunday, and will officially be unveiled during E3 next week. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but we do have very good reason to speculate. In an original report from PlayStation Lifestyle, it was heavily implied through activity going on through Borderlands 2's Steam DB page that we would be getting a new DLC. That new DLC is titled Commander Lilith and the Fight for Sanctuary. So for anyone who's not a huge Borderlands fan and only maybe knows it through Tales from the Borderlands, if you're a Telltale fan, which I know a lot of people that are sub to me are, Lilith, for those of you who don't know, was a playable character in the first Borderlands game, who then becomes a main character in the second game as like a sort of second command to Roland in the Crimson Raiders, and then eventually upon his death she takes over. She's also featured very prominently in Borderlands the pre-sequel, both in the present day scenes as well as in the main story, which takes place between the events of Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2. So back to the DLC. This, once again, like I said, it's supposedly coming out Sunday, June 9th. That feels a bit odd for me. I'm not sure on that, but that is the information that we have to go on that was leaked through SteamDB. So about the actual DLC itself, the description was also another huge leak that was given, and I have the description for you right here. Return to the award-winning shooter-looter for a new adventure that sets the stage for the upcoming Borderlands 3. Sanctuary is under siege, the vault's map has been stolen, and a toxic gas is poisoning Pandora. Fight new bosses, explore new zones, get new loot, including an entirely new tier beyond Legendary, and join up with Lilith and the Crimson Raiders to take on a deranged villain hell-bent on ruling the planet. So, there's a few different big takeaways that we can get from this description. One of the major ones is that this is a DLC that is setting up the events of Borderlands 3, and that's pretty big. It's actually pretty shocking that we're getting a new DLC at this stage at all, to be honest. Borderlands 2 came out back in 2012, and the last bit of DLC for that game were the Headhunter packs, which were released in late 2013 and 2014, respectively. So this is 7 years after the release of Borderlands 2 and 5 years after the release of the last bits of DLC that we've ever gotten, and they are still pumping out some DLC that is meant to act as a staging ground and help lead into the events that we're going to see in regards to Borderlands 3, which I think is super exciting. That's a really awesome way to bring new people into the franchise. Keep Borderlands 2, which is still regarded and heavily played, like 1 million unique players every single month for Borderlands 2, to build up even more hype for Borderlands 3, get new people into the series, and really set the stage for stuff that's going to happen. And again, like, there's so many new people being brought on thanks to all the Borderlands 3 hype. You have Borderlands 2, and, well, you have the Handsome Collection, which is Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, and all the DLCs for both of those games being free on for PlayStation Plus members this month on PlayStation, and both Borderlands 2 and the Handsome Collection are being sold at very, very low prices on Steam itself. So if you have never played the Borderlands games before, now is the perfect time to go out and get yourselves a copy of Borderlands 2 or pick up Borderlands the Handsome Collection, because you really should. They're great games, and I really would highly recommend. But like I said, this is going to set up the events of Borderlands 3. For those of you who don't know, Sanctuary is the main area in Borderlands 2. It's the main staging ground. It's where you go to upgrade your gear, buy new weapons, pick up some missions, and where you go to turn in some missions. So that's going to be a huge thing. Another big piece of information that we got, there's going to be a new tier of weapons. These are what's known as rainbow weapons. So the rainbow weapons were leaked a couple months back. No one really knew what to make of them. No one knew what they were for. I still am not exactly sure exactly what they are outside of them being a new tier above legendary. So how the looting system works is pretty similar to any other looting system in a looter shooter. White, green, blue, purple, orange. And orange being at this point the highest known one. Those are being the legendary weapons. There are actually pearlescent weapons and seraph weapons featured later in the game that you get from vending machines, defeating raid bosses, and very, very, very rare loot drops from like loot midgets or tubby enemies. So we're going to have something now above rainbow, above legendary. It's not going to, I'm not sure if it's above pearlescent and seraph weapons, but we do have some new weapons in regards to that. Another big piece of information that was given was that there's going to be a level cap raise. So before in Borderlands 2, you could only raise your character up to level 72 before it maxed out. You cannot level up any higher. So you're going to get 8 additional levels. It's increasing to level 80. That's the new cap. You're going to get 8 new levels, 8 new skills to add to your character's skill trees, and you're going to be able to make your character a hell of a lot more powerful. And for newcomers, don't worry, you're getting an immediate boost to level 30 in case you haven't completed the main quest yet. So if you're still working on the main story, but you want to play the new DLC, or if you haven't played the story at all, but you still want to play the DLC to prepare for Borderlands 3, you will be given automatically level 30, and I'm assuming some level 30 type gear in order to play the new DLC. And one last big piece of information. The game is free. The DLC is going to be reportedly free. You don't need to pay for it. It's going to be offered as a free update for Borderlands 2 and Borderlands The Handsome Collection players. So on June 9th or whenever this game does eventually come out, just make sure to update the game. You should be getting a new DLC featured. So I also want to go over a couple of different screenshots that were also leaked in regards to the game itself. So just give me one sec, I can pull that up. So the first screenshot that I want to go over is the actual cover art for the game. Alright, so this is the actual cover art for what it's going to look like. Borderlands 2, Commander Lilith, and the Fight for Sanctuary. It's a bit small, I apologize for that. But what you can see is what looks to be plant life in the background taking over some of the buildings. But more importantly, you have in the background mutant psychos. So if psychos weren't bad enough, guess what? You're getting something worse. Psychos are now seemingly merging with the plant life, which probably has to deal with the poisonous gas that was hinted at in the description and the new enemy. From what I've heard, there was reportedly a DLC that was canceled in regards to Borderlands, the pre-sequel, after 2K Australia shut down, that was supposed to involve enemies such as this, mutated plant psychos. So it looks like that's actually going to get incorporated into this one. Don't know how they've been formed. My guess is Dr. Zed made some sort of monstrosity. God damn it, Zed. Ooh, maybe it's Ted. Oh, if it's Dr. Ted, the Forbidden Brother. Because we've already killed Dr. Ned in Borderlands 1 DLC. So maybe we learn about Dr. Ted. Oh, that would be so fun. Oh, that's my new theory. That's my new theory until we get something that goes against it. Okay, so we also have another screenshot. This one is, again, of Lilith. More plants growing in the background. This might be Sanctuary. I don't know. But we see her using her siren powers. We see her with her Firehawk wings. So, again, for those of you who don't know, in Borderlands 2, she adopts this alias known as the Firehawk, a bandit leader who's trying to distract Hyperion so that Roland can focus on taking down Hyperion because she faked her own death. So she's using her Firehawk powers, her siren powers, for some odd reason, probably to fight against whatever enemy that she's going up against. So, like I said, a bunch of overgrown plant life. It seems to be consuming everything in sight. And along with that, we've got a couple other great screenshots. We have one of the one and only Tiny Tina. Good to see that she's coming back. She's also going to be featured in Borderlands 3, but good to see that she will be in Borderlands Commander Lilith DLC. So it looks to be like she's just simply reacting to what's going on around her. We see more plants taking over the buildings. In a follow-up screenshot, probably in or around the same location, we have Brick, again, another playable character from the original Borderlands, main character in Borderlands 2. And for those of you who only played Tales from the Borderlands, you'll recognize him as one of the characters along with Mordecai who took Athena back in episode 3 of Tales from the Borderlands. So what we also have with this screenshot of Brick, it looks to be psychos growing out of the ground from with their legs sticking out. Looks to be merging with the plant life again. We got more in the background taking over the buildings. So no fucking idea what in the hell is going on in this one. That's pretty much like a good summation of a lot of the screenshots that we're getting here. We just do not know what the fuck is going on with these plants and these psychos. So, yeah. So another great screenshot. This one is of the character Salvador. Salvador is one of the main playable characters in Borderlands 2, the one I'm currently playing as. And these are what the rainbow gear weapons are supposed to look like. As you can see, they look kind of crystallized, almost see-through. And these are supposed to be the tier above Legendary. So he's currently gunzerking, which is why he has 2. They really do look very cool, I must say. But we don't know anything about their features or what any possible drawbacks that they may have. That's the thing with Legendary and even some pearlescent weapons, is that you will get some really awesome features, but there might be a couple drawbacks. So we don't know exactly what's going to be featured here. Might be something, might just be super cool weapons. This also extends, it looks like, to cars, as we can see from this other screenshot. And we're going to get new skins, new rainbow-type skins for our characters, our cars. We can see that it seems to be spurting out rainbows from its back, probably from a boost. But we can also see more overgrown plant life taking over. And last but not least, we have one more screenshot. This one features actual combat from the DLC. During the main mission called Shooting the Moon, you will face off against an enemy called Uranus. Yes, I recognize it's called Uranus. So for Borderlands 2 fans, you might recognize that this enemy looks a lot similar to an enemy called Saturn from the main campaign that you encounter in the next to last mission in an area called the Arid Nexus Badlands, otherwise known as Firestone. You also have Tiny Tina communicating to us via her Echo device, and I quote, "Its name is like a butt. This is the greatest day of my life." And then she starts laughing maniacally, and God damn it, I love you, Tiny Tina. I'm sorry, but that line is hilarious. If I can already picture how she's going to say it, if I can already hear her voice saying it, that's how you know you've nailed the character. And that's such a Tiny Tina thing to say. But also, more importantly, we're getting a lot of information about this DLC just from this screenshot. And the reason why I say that is because look where we are. We are currently in the ruins of Helios. That's right. We're going to be going to the ruins of Helios in this DLC. For those of you who have not played Tales from the Borderlands, what is wrong with you? But more importantly, in episode 5, Reese deactivates Helios' gravitational pull that it keeps it attached to Elpis, and thus it crashes into Pandora, killing a lot of people, but that's beside the point. So we are going to be traveling once again to the ruins of Helios. This confirms that this DLC is taking place not only after the events of Borderlands 2, that this is taking place after the events of Tales from the Borderlands, after the present-day events of Borderlands the pre-sequel, and more importantly, we might actually get to see Vaughn again. Now, it was confirmed that Vaughn will be in Borderlands 3, and that Vaughn will be voiced once again by Chris Hardwick, who was the voice actor in Tales from the Borderlands. So there's a good chance if we're going to the ruins of Helios, we will see Vaughn. There is also a good chance that we might finally get an explanation as to what happened to both Reese and Fiona after they entered the Vault of the Traveler and suddenly vanished. Because Reese is in Borderlands 3. We've seen it. There's gameplay out there. He was in a trailer. And unfortunately, he's not voiced by Troy Baker. He's voiced instead by Ray Chase, who Walking Dead fans will recognize as the voice of Marlin from the final season. Troy Baker's not returning. Chris Hardwick is returning. And we might get an explanation as to what happened with Reese and Fiona after they entered the Vault of the Traveler in Episode 5 and how they came back and why Reese is running Atlas in Borderlands 3. So that's going to be huge. And that's pretty much all the information that we have available for Commander Lilith and the fight for Sanctuary. But this does leave a couple questions as to how this is going to not only play into Borderlands 3, but how this is going to work in the grander context of Borderlands 2 itself. So one big question we have to ask is, how do the Borderlands 3 main enemies, the Calypso twins, possibly factor into the DLC? It does say we're fighting a new enemy hellbent on taking over Pandora, but it does not really seem like we are fighting the Calypso twins. There might be stuff in the game that gives background on the Calypso twins, their rise to power, what their motivation will be in Borderlands 3, but we don't seem to be... I don't think we're going to be fighting them in this DLC. I don't even think they're going to be major characters, but there might be some little bits of information that are given that might tie into Borderlands 3 and their overall goal and explaining what they're doing. There might be more background as to why Tyreen and her brother, who I'm drawing a blank on his name, god damn it, are able to sort of work together with their siren powers. But we'll have to see how that plays into the DLC in Borderlands 3. Another big question I personally have is how this is going to work in terms of entering the DLC. So how DLCs of Borderlands work is that you would fast travel to the particular location of the DLC and you'd get the cutscene that introduces and sets the stage for it all. Sanctuary, like I said, is a main area in the original Borderlands game. If in Borderlands 2, if you go to Sanctuary, how do you know you're going to activate the DLC? Is it going to be a separate location and then Sanctuary comes in later? Or well, how do you activate the DLC, I guess, is going to be the big question here. If Sanctuary is such a major location in the original version of the game. So that's going to be something to find out when the game comes out. But this is the most important one that I have, and I've seen a lot of people ask this. How do the overpower levels work? So in Borderlands 2, there is another minor DLC called the Raid on Digistruct Peak. And in that DLC, when you're doing it on Ultimate Vault Hunter mode and you maxed out your character at level 72, every time you complete the gauntlet, you unlock an overpowered level upgrade. And this maxes out at 8, and this allows you to fight overpowered level enemies, but also equip overpowered gear. And like I said, it maxes out at 8, so you can get weapons like overpowered level 7s, overpowered level 5s, overpowered level 8s, yada 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 until. And those are the current weapons I have. I am actually playing as Salvador right now. I'm at overpowered level 7, and what I've got is like an overpowered level 7 Conference Call, an overpowered level 6 Double Penetrating Unkempt Herald, an overpowered level 7 B Shield, an overpowered level 7 Fastball Grenade. So, how is the level scaling going to work? Is the overpowered gear going to just convert into level 78, level 79, level 80, whatever, and then you got to farm again in order to unlock the overpowered? Is the game going to maybe just say, alright, we recognize you're doing overpowered level 7, here's free 8 skill points, and we'll scale the weapons accordingly? How is the overpowered now going to work? How is it going to factor into the Raid on Digistruct Peak DLC? How is the levels and the enemies going to be scaled? Because I'm currently fighting up against level 78, level 79, level 80 enemies when I go into Borderlands 2 with Salvador. So, how is that going to factor into the new cap, the level cap? That needs to be answered. I don't think we're going to have that answered before the DLC releases on Sunday. We'll just have to figure that out once the game comes. I really would not like farming again for these weapons because that was super annoying. It took me a long time just to get these weapons. But, so that's what we have in regards to the DLC. I am super excited. I don't know about you guys, but I am super excited for this. I can't wait to play it on Sunday when it comes out. Probably going to do a playthrough of it. I'd love to do a playthrough of it, see how it does. And, yeah, like I said, I am super excited to see how this is going to tie into Borderlands 3. This will definitely hold me over until then. And I hope you guys will join me as I sit down and do a playthrough of Commander Lilith and the fight for Sanctuary. But before I go, just a side note, if you've made it all the way this far, huge question to ask you. I did do a playthrough recording of episode 3 of Life is Strange. This is not like the other 2 episodes I removed from the channel, which I was embarrassed of. This is a regular, serious, completely sober, but serious playthrough of the game. There are elements I praise, there's a lot of elements where I criticize, but it's much more akin to everything I've done beforehand, especially in Before the Storm in the first game. This is not me being all, woo, this is me being serious. So, let me know if you want me to upload it. I can if you'd like, but I fully understand if you guys don't want to see that. Anyway, though, Borderlands, Commander Lilith, and the Fight for Sanctuary DLC coming out Sunday. Hope to see you guys for my playthrough of it that day.